Right.
But I remember you saying, you just said it earlier, that Indians are indigenous to this land.
Yes.
And yet, I've heard you say that this is our land.
Yes.
How is that?
The reason that this is our land because there's a myth that went out. And one of the things is that in this myth that went out, they said that we're slaves and we come from Africa. A lot of us were not imported here like Kuta Kinte, we were already here. But the history has been giving us misinformation. The guys or the people who are the studiers or the students of the learned line of the people and the Moors and the sovereign have found out and know that slavery is not all that it is. They have also given me, Sister Shane gave me something here. The House of Representatives apologized for slavery in the Jim Crow law, but I'll get into that later, but they apologized for it. But still, what it is that we are these people, and many of us were already here. We were already here. And we were in the seven principal people and in the so-called Native Americans. That's why they collectively say Cherokee. That's another word for like Negro or collection of people. But that is not who truly the name of a Cherokee is. It also has the name that deals with the letter A. And that's where we are. So we are already here. We've already been here. But the hidden history is that we have already established people and indigenous of this land with other Indian tribes. The name Ohio is part of the sovereign sacred land of the indigenous people, the valley. Now, the thing is that the Indians, they are in their clan, but I give the Moors a lot of respect because they're searching to gather themselves and not relying on the false history of what things are. Because we know that there's false history, and the reason that we know there's false history is because when we look at the black history and they give us 28 days, which I think is cool because it's 2 and 8, 10 February, but still that's a gate. But the problem is that we know that it's called Black History Month, but in Black History Month, now they're teaching it. More white folks know about black history than black folks do. And because they're like, who invented the light bulb? Oh, Thomas Edison. No, it was not. Who invented the traffic light? Thomas Edison. No, it was not. Who invented the record player? Thomas Edison. No, it was not. So these brothers worked for Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison is the General Electric, like we have today. Brothers didn't have the right to have patterns and things. The man who invented, I forget this blood thing that needed a blood transfusion. Charles Drew died because the same thing that he invented he couldn't do because he was classified as a nigger.
I researched that. And
Talk to me, Doug.
There was some evidence that did not happen that way, that he died en route to the hospital, and they didn't have ambulance systems back then like they have now. That he was not refused. Because that's what I heard about, and I heard about that 15, 20 years ago.
Okay.
And I probably should research it again, maybe they have more information, but the information I have is that it may not be true. So I want to at least be, factually correct in that as possible.
I want, because I'm sensitive about things like that. You know how people talk to me and they say, why don't you go to Coney Island? I have problems with that because when I was in the church, First Antioch Baptist Church, we as a church group went to Coney Island and they had a line of police and white men with rifles and dogs and said, hey, and they spit them out, no niggas allowed in Coney Island. So I'm still obeying the rule. I ain't going to Coney Island. I don't want to go. I'm an older man. I was a little boy then, but I still see the white men with guns and the police with the things and the line. And we were church folks, and they said no niggas allowed. And I have fun somewhere else. And I still do. I don't do Coney Island. It's just the way it is. But the history of it is that we have been a rejected and oppressed people. So there's a lot going on. So why not the history? We know that black history is different. Now let's take it a different step and even further. What about this thing they call the Bible? How is it that the Bible, it talks about 2 major areas, 3, Africa, Ethiopia, or they say Egypt, Ethiopia and Arabia, or Iraq, or Samaria. How did the English people, the European, get all in there? Even when they do the Jesus movies, all the extras are basically black folk, except for Jesus and his mama.
You know?
And you're like, okay. So they couldn't ship over a whole bunch of white folks to make the movie. But see, they're not part of that indigenous natural area. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, they'll make you black, you know, or a eunuch or whatever. Now let's get back to where we are. The Mormons have, this is their collective name in the civil. But the thing is, there is a spiritual connection that makes them connect to the seven principal people. And in these seven principal people, there is a name, and it may be in the book of Isaiah, where they call them the sacred spiritual warriors. And these guys were so magnificent. And in my research, I'm going to find out what that is and what their connection to be and what is their principal name besides the one that they have given us. Because we know that that's not them. Then everybody's seen, if you haven't seen this, this is a woman they call, she beats up her maid. She apologized. I forget her name. What's her name? Naomi Sims. Who? See, I don't know her name. See, who's Naomi Sims? I don't know. But anyway, let me get that arrow out of there. And let me break this down, because one of the things that they showed you in the movie, The Mummy, The Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, is that when in the clips of trailers where he's fighting the guy who's the actual mummy actor star, and he jumps at him, he jumps from a man to a three-headed dragon. So he's a shapeshifter. So in other words, he takes on the form of a reptilian. What's happening here is that the black female, remember I showed you before, where she is dealing with this in Thriller, you know, Michael Jackson. She's going into the ninth gate willingly for things of accolades of this society and gifts. So here is dealing with this because we know that the original bitch is black, Cali. Remember how we went to the zoo and I showed the clip of the zoo and I was talking about Cali and they said, oh yeah, she's black, and we had the little kid that was A, B, and C dealing with this and that, black. So we know that that black female is there. So